Story number 1. My boyfriend cheated on me and the woman is pregnant. I 37. Female found out my boyfriend 37 male of 5 years cheated on me and now the woman is pregnant. What should I do? I'm still in shock and feel like I'm living in a nightmare. A few days ago my boyfriend sat me down to tell me he cheated on me a few months ago. He claims he met this woman on Tinder several years before we got together, but had never met in person. They would chat off and on throughout the years and finally decided to meet up in person. She recently got out of a relationship and was staying in a hotel in our city. She messaged him to see if he wanted to grab a drink with her at the hotel bar, and he decided to go. One thing led to another, and they ended up back in her room to have sex. He said that he instantly regretted it and decided from that moment he was committed to me and wanted to focus on our relationship. He then proceeded to ghost her. I asked him why he was telling me now, and as it turns out, she is pregnant and she wants to keep it. Now, here is where I need advice. I'm obviously heartbroken and feel like something was stolen from me. At the same time, I still love him and I feel sorry for him. He wants nothing to do with this woman or this child. He's not even sure if it is his yet. This woman is now raging because she thought they had a future together. I know the smart thing to do is to remove myself from this mess and never look back. But I'm so confused and going through so many emotions. I thought we were happy and that he was my forever person. It's also scary to think about starting over at my age. I've since kicked him out, and he's at his parents', but we will need to talk about our living situation since our lease isn't up for another 8 months. What should I do? How do I process this and make a decision that is best for me? Any advice or similar experiences would be greatly appreciated. Let me know down in the comments.
Story number 2. Am I the asshole for leaving my fiancée at the altar after discovering her affair with my brother and her best friend? I 29. Male have been with my fiancée, Emily, 28 female, for 5 years. We got engaged a year ago, and our wedding was supposed to be a fairy tale. Everything seemed perfect until last week. I was preparing for the wedding when I noticed Emily acting strangely. She was secretive with her phone and had sudden, unexplained disappearances. I chalked it up to wedding stress until I received an anonymous message with photos and screenshots revealing that Emily was having an affair with not just one person, but 2. My brother, Mark, 31 male, and her best friend, Sarah, 28 female. I was devastated. I confronted Mark, who admitted everything and said it started as a mistake but evolved into something more. Sarah, on the other hand, denied it at first, but then broke down and confessed, saying she and Emily had always been closer than I realized. I didn't know what to do. Calling off the wedding seemed drastic, but marrying someone who betrayed me with 2 of the people I trusted most felt impossible. I decided to go through with the wedding to gather my thoughts. But as I stood at the altar watching Emily walk down the aisle, all I could think about was the betrayal. When she reached me, I couldn't go through with it. I took a deep breath and told everyone what I had discovered. Emily burst into tears, Mark looked horrified, and Sarah ran out. My parents were furious and the guests were in shock. Now, both families are divided. My parents are supporting me, but Emily's parents are calling me cruel for humiliating her publicly. Friends are split, with some saying I did the right thing and others saying I should have handled it privately. Emily has been texting and calling non-stop, begging for forgiveness, saying she made a mistake and wants to fix things. Mark has disappeared, and Sarah is posting cryptic messages on social media about betrayal and forgiveness. I'm heartbroken and confused. Am I the asshole for exposing Emily and leaving her at the altar, or should I have handled it differently? Share your opinions down in the comments below, as it would be greatly appreciated.
Story number 3. Am I the asshole for telling my husband he shouldn't be upset when my daughter said that her uncle would be the one to walk her down the aisle on her wedding day. Note that I'm using fake names for privacy's sake. I female 46 got pregnant with my daughter Sarah female 26 when I was in college. My parents and my then boyfriend's parents pushed us to marry, which we did. My late husband unfortunately passed away a week after our daughter's second birthday because of a heart complication that we did not even know he had. It was a very hard time for me, and I went through a very bad depression. 4 years later, I met my now husband, Robert Male 46, on a blind date set up by a friend. He was one of my best friend's cousin. We hit it off and got married a year later. Even when we were dating, he was very hands-on with my daughter, and it did not take too long for my daughter call him Papa, even until we got married and when I got pregnant 2 years into the marriage and gave birth to twins, male 17 and female 17. He still acted like a father to Sarah. She was even included in my husband's family reunions and the cousin group photo shoot that my in-laws organize every Christmas. Things took a bit of a turn when Sarah turned 18. She started calling him by his first name, and both Robert and I were taken aback with the change of attitude she was displaying. I asked Robert what was that about, but he only shrugged, not knowing the reason too. I thought things would go back to normal, but she has been consistent in calling him by his first name, so I asked her if we could talk. Robert asked if he could join, which Sarah agreed. To make it short, my daughter overheard my husband talking about a Father's Day trip to his friend who owns an hostel. His friend asked him if he forgot to include Sarah since my husband only asked him to prepare 3 bedrooms. My husband replied that he planned this trip for his real children only. It wouldn't make sense if Sarah was in the trip since he wasn't her real father. This made Sarah feel betrayed and hurt because she saw him as her real dad, even if she knew he was her stepdad. My husband tried to explain to her that though he loves her as a father, his love for the twins were different since they were his real children. I wanted to just shut him up because he was overusing the word real. But Sarah told us to leave her room. What made that day even more depressing was that this day was her last week with us before she leaves the country for college. Since then, every time she comes home, Sarah acts like nothing happened, but continues to call Robert by his first name. Robert didn't want to add fuel to the fire and just tolerated it. And now, a few years since then, my daughter announced her engagement to her longtime boyfriend. We were very happy for her as they have been dating since they were still college freshmen. 2 weeks before their wedding, we were wondering who would be walking Sarah down the aisle. I assumed it would be Robert, since I thought we have moved past that incident. But no. My daughter scoffed at me when I told her about Robert walking her down the aisle. She said, "I thought it was obvious that Uncle Greg, my late husband's brother, would be the one to do that. Besides, I'm not his real daughter. It wouldn't make sense if he walked me down the aisle." I did not talk back, instead apologized for my ignorance and told her that I'll speak with Robert about it, since he also assumed he'd be the one to walk her down the aisle. When I told him what Sarah said, he was pissed, but I politely reminded him of the incident years ago, which made him even more upset. He said that it was long time ago, and that Sarah should move on. I, who was offended for my daughter, told him that he shouldn't be upset since he doesn't see her as his real child anyway. He then got teary-eyed and told me to not speak to him. He still attended Sarah's wedding, but looked visibly down. We still aren't on good terms, and have been pretending in front of relatives. My daughter does not know about this, and I want to keep it that way. But nevertheless, it's been a week since my daughter's wedding, and Robert is still upset. He only talks to me about the twins and household stuff, but beyond that, he keeps everything to himself. I feel really bad and think he is acting this way because of me. So, without being said, am I the asshole? Subscribe and like for more videos like this.